Welcome to Tale Archive, where we listen to stories and we learn. We listen and we don't judge. I'm your host today, Rihanna. Thanks for joining me for this special episode that will make you feel intrigued. Sit down or lay in bed and relax, ready to enjoy the lovely story and learn life lessons. The title of today's story is Village Divisionary, the story of Dr. Amina Kamara. Chapter 1: A Dream is Born. In the small African village of Nyanda, nestled between golden fields and rolling green hills, a little girl named Amina Kamara was born into a simple but loving family. Life in Nyanda was peaceful. Children ran barefoot through the fields, elders gathered under the great Baobab tree to share wisdom, and women sang as they pounded grain. However, Nyanda had one major problem. There was no hospital, no doctor, and no clinic. Amina's mother, Mama Fatima, was the village's healer. She knew how to mix herbs and treat wounds, but sometimes her knowledge was not enough. Many lives were lost because they had to travel miles on foot to reach the nearest hospital. One fateful night, Amina's younger brother Musa fell dangerously ill with a high fever. As he shivered and burned in his sleep, Mama Fatima prepared to walk the long journey to the city hospital, carrying Musa on her back. Amina wanted to help, but she was only 7. All she could do was pray. After hours of walking, they reached the hospital, and Musa was saved. But the image of her helpless mother's crying at Musa's bedside never left Amina's mind. That she made a silent vow: one day I will become a doctor. Chapter 2: The Road to Education. Amina had a hunger for knowledge. She loved to learn, but her village school had no science lab, no proper library, and barely enough textbooks. Her teacher, Mr. Diallo, was the only one who believed in her dream. You have a sharp mind, Amina, he told her, but if you want to be a doctor, you need to study in the city. Amina's heart sank. No one from Nyanda had ever gone to a city school. Could she really leave her family behind? Her father, Mr. Kamara, was a farmer and could not afford the school fees, but the village elders saw something special in Amina. They gathered money to help her apply for a scholarship. After a week of waiting, the news arrived. Amina had scored the highest marks in the region. She won a full scholarship to one of the best schools in the city. At 12 years old, Amina packed her few belongings and left for the city, carrying nothing but her dreams and the prayers of her village. Chapter 3: A New World. Amina's heart pounded as she stepped off the bus into the bustling city. She had never seen buildings so tall, roads so wide, or lights that shone even in the middle of the night. The air smelled different, of fuel, roasted street food, and something she couldn't quite place. Everything felt fast, loud, and intimidating. The prestigious school, where she had earned a scholarship, was like a different universe compared to her small village school. Instead of dusty floors and wooden benches, there were shiny tiles, glass windows, science labs, and a library bigger than Diana itself. The other students had expensive uniforms, new shoes, and carried tablets instead of notebooks. Amina, in her second-hand uniform and simple sandals, felt out of place. The first struggles. From the first day, Amina faced challenges. The lessons were more advanced than what she had learned in Nyanda. The teacher spoke fast, and students took notes on laptops, while she struggled to write quickly on her worn-out notebook. At lunch, she sat alone. She heard whispers. She speaks differently. She's from a village. Has she ever seen a real computer? For the first time, Amina felt small. That night, she cried into her pillow. Maybe she didn't belong here. Maybe she had made a mistake. But then she remembered Musa's fever. She thought of her mother, walking miles of the sick children in Nyanda, with no doctor. No, I cannot give up. Rising above. The next day, Amina did what she had always done. She worked harder than anyone. She stayed up late after class to seek teachers for help. She borrowed extra books from the library, and spent hours reading. She copied notes from classmates who had laptops. She woke up before dawn to study. Slowly, things changed. She began understanding lessons better, answering questions in class, and gaining the respect of teachers. One day, a science teacher, Mrs. Adeyemi, noticed her talent. Amina, she said, I'm forming a team for the national science competition. Would you like to join? Amina's eyes widened. Her, compete with the best students in the country. She nodded. Yes, ma'am, I would love to. The big competition. The competition was held in a grand hall, with hundreds of students from the best schools. As the rounds progressed, Amina had her team solve complex problems, explain medical theories, and build models of human organs. When the final results were announced, Amina's team had won first place. For the first time since she arrived in the city, Amina felt like she belonged. Her name was printed in newspapers, and the school principal shook her hand. But the best moment came when she received a letter of recognition, including an opportunity to apply for a scholarship at one of Africa's top universities. Amina had proven herself and the world that she was not just a village girl, she was a future doctor in the making. As she walked home that evening, the city no longer felt overwhelming. Instead, it felt like a place of possibilities. She smiled, knowing this was just the beginning of her journey. Chapter 4. The Struggles of Medical School. At just 18 years old, Amina Kamara boarded a plane for the first time in her life, leaving Africa, for the United States to begin medical school. As she looked out of the airplane window, watching her homeland disappear beneath the clouds, she felt a mix of excitement and fear. She had come so far, but she knew that this would be her biggest challenge yet. A world of differences. Arriving in America was like stepping into another universe. The streets were filled with people rushing to work, cars honking, and tall buildings that stretched endlessly into the sky. But medical school was more overwhelming. The coursework was brutal, thick textbooks, endless lectures, and exams that tested everything she had ever learned. The practical season were intense, where students practiced diagnosing illnesses and performing basic medical procedures. She was far from home, adjusting to a new culture, new foods, and a language that, although she spoke well, still felt foreign. The silent struggles. Unlike many of her classmates, Amina had no financial support from family. Her scholarship covered tuition, but she still had to pay for food, rent, and books. To survive, she worked part-time jobs, cleaning in the library, tutoring younger students, and even waiting tables. Borrowed used textbooks from older students instead of buying new ones, skipping meals some days, spending every dollar on medical supplies instead. Some nights, exhausted after long hours of studying and working, she questioned if she could make it. Is it worth it? She thought, but then she remembered her mother walking miles to see Brisa. She thought of Diana's children waiting for their first real doctor. I cannot give up now. The breaking point. During her third year, Amina faced one of the hardest tests of her life, the clinical rotations. She worked long shifts in hospitals, assisting real doctors, treating real patients, and sometimes watching people suffer or even die. One evening, a little girl, Maria, was rushed into the emergency room, struggling to breathe. As Amina helped the doctors, she saw fear in Maria's mother's eyes, the same fear she had once seen in her own mother when Musa was sick. Maria survived, and in that moment Amina knew, this is why I'm here, to save lives. The final test. After 6 years of sleepless nights, sacrifice, and pushing through doubt, Amina stood on stage in her graduation gown, receiving her medical degree. She was no longer just Amina, the village girl from Diana. She was now Dr. Amina Kamara, a qualified doctor, ready to change the world. As she held her diploma, she whispered to her, Leander, I'm coming home soon. Chapter 5. Changing the World. After years of sacrifice, hard work, and determination, Dr. Amina Kamara had achieved what once seemed impossible. But she knew her journey was far from over. With her medical degree in hand, she had one mission: to bring healthcare to the people who needed it the most. A doctor with a purpose. Instead of accepting high-paying hospital jobs in big cities, Amina chose to work in rural clinics and underserved communities. She traveled across Africa, South America, and Asia, treating children suffering from malnutrition, malaria, and other preventable diseases. She spoke at global conferences, raising awareness about healthcare challenges in remote villages. She worked with charities and medical organizations to build clinics in forgotten places. But no matter where she went, her heart always belonged to Nyanda. The call from home. One day, while working at a hospital in Kenya, she received a letter from her former teacher, Mr. Diallo. Amina, the people of Nyanda are proud of you, but our children are still dying from illnesses that could be treated. We still have no hospital. Will you come home? Amina sat in silence, reading the letter over and over. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She contacted international health organizations, African leaders, and private donors, telling them about Nyanda's need for a hospital. At first, people doubted her. A small village, why invest there? But Amina refused to give up. She showed them data, shared her own story, and convinced them that every life mattered, no matter how small the village. And then the miracle happened. A global health foundation agreed to sponsor the construction of Nyanda's first modern medical clinic. The dream becomes reality. A year later, Dr. Amina Kamara stepped back into Nyanda, no longer the little girl who once studied under the Baobab tree, but a doctor returning home to heal her people. With her own hands, she helped build the hospital, oversee construction, hiring doctors, and training local nurses. On opening day, the entire village gathered. The black mayor gave a speech thanking Amina for her dedication. Children ran around excitedly, knowing they would never have to walk miles for treatment again. A large sign above the clinic entrance read, Kamara Medical Center, where every life matters. As Amina stood at the doorway, she thought about her mother's struggle, her brother's fever, and the dreams she once had as a little girl. She smiled knowing she had kept her promise. The moral of the story is, no dream is too big, no village is too small. Success is not just about personal achievement, but about giving back. One person can change the world if they refuse to give up. Chapter 6. A Legacy of Hope. Dr. Amina Kamara's dream had finally come true. Nyanda's first medical center was opened, and for the first time in history, the people had access to proper healthcare. But her work was far from over. Healing the people of Nyanda. From the moment the Kamara Medical Center opened its doors, patients flooded in. Mothers brought their newborns for vaccinations instead of relying on only traditional remedies. Elderly villagers finally received treatment for conditions they had suffered from for years. When accidents happened, there was no ambulance instead of a long, painful walk to the city. One day, a familiar woman stepped into the clinic. Mama Fatima, Amina's mother. She wiped tears from her eyes as she looked around the fully stocked medical center. Amina, you have given our people hope, she whispered, embracing her daughter. Training the next generation. Amina knew that the true change didn't stop with one hospital. It had to be sustained for generations. She started a medical training program for young people in Nyanda, helping them become nurses and doctors. She created a scholarship fund allowing bright but underprivileged students to study medicine abroad. She worked with local schools to introduce health education, teaching children about hygiene, nutrition, and disease prevention. One of her students was a little girl named Zainab. She reminded Amina of herself, curious, determined, and full of dreams. One day, I will be a doctor like you, Dr. Kamara, Zainab said proudly. Amina smiled, and one day you will return to help even more people. Global recognition. News of Dr. Amina Kamara's work spread worldwide. She was invited to speak at international conferences, sharing how a girl from a small village changed thousands of lives. She won prestigious humanitarian awards for her dedication to global health. Schools across Africa included her story in textbooks, inspiring future generations. But despite fame and recognition, Amina remained humble. When reporters asked about her greatest achievements, she didn't talk about awards. Instead, she said, "My greatest achievement is seeing the children of Nyanda healthy, happy, and dreaming of a better future." Returning to the Baobab tree. One evening, Amina walked alone to the ancient Baobab tree where she had once studied as a little girl. She sat beneath it, listening to the whispers and the distant laughter of children. She thought about the little girl she once was, the one who had dreamed of becoming a doctor. "You did it," she whispered to herself. But deep down, she knew her journey wasn't over. There were more villages to help, more hospitals to build, and more young girls like Zainab to inspire. And so, as the sun set over Nyanda, Dr. Amina Kamara stood up, ready for the next chapter of her mission. Epilogue. The ripple effect of a dream. Years passed, and Dr. Amina Kamara's name became a symbol of hope. The Kamara Medical Center in Nyanda was no longer just a clinic. It had expanded into a full hospital, complete with modern equipment, maternity wards, and a research center. Patients from surrounding villages traveled there, knowing they would receive quality care. But Amina's work didn't stop in Nyanda. A global mission. She founded the Kamara Foundation, an organization that built hospitals and trained doctors across Africa, Asia, and South America. She wrote a book about her journey, which became a bestseller and was used in schools worldwide to inspire young dreamers. Some of the very best children treated at her clinic grew up to become doctors and nurses, returning to Nyanda to serve their people. One of them was Zainab, the little girl who once said she would be a doctor. The next generation. At Amina's 60th birthday celebration, Nyanda's town square was filled with thousands of people, patients, students, and leaders who had been touched by her work. The mayor presented her with an award, saying, "Dr. Amina Kamara is not just Nyanda's doctor, she is Africa's daughter and the world healer." As the crowd clapped, Zainab, now a doctor, stepped forward. "Dr. Kamara, because of you, I became a doctor. And just like you, once returned to Nyanda today, I returned to continue your work." Tears welled in Amina's eyes. This was her dream, to inspire others to continue their mission. That night, as she sat beneath the ancient baobab tree, she reflected on the long journey that had brought her here, from a small village girl to a world-renowned doctor. She smiled knowing that even when she was gone, her legacy would live on, because dreams don't just belong to one person. They ripple through generations, changing the world, one life at a time. Your dreams are seeds. Plant them with hard work, water them with perseverance, and watch them grow into a legacy that changes the world. A quotation by Dr. Amina Kamara. That is the end of our story for today. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned one or two lessons from the story of Dr. Amina Kamara. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Until we come again next time. Goodbye.